All right, it is the thrifting day, and it has not been a good week. Last week, it was so much fun, and I got a ton of stuff for great prices. And then this week, my mom was here visiting, and so I took her to my favorite place, and I got like maybe 3 items from there. We ran to another store, and again, it was like another 3 items. Mind you, at my favorite store, I did find like some cool things, but just not the amount that I typically find. And today, Lucas is with me, and we are getting Starbucks right now because we need it. We just went to Deseret Industries, which again, one of my least favorite places, but I'm like, man, I'm desperate. So went there, found 2 items. They were both overpriced. It's not the best. It's not looking good. So we're gonna run to my favorite store again. We're gonna see maybe if they've restocked and I will find stuff. So fingers crossed. Let's go see what they have. So I did love this pink bowl, but when I checked the price, it was like $15. So that's a definite pass for me. Can't do 15. And this dog, I believe it's like a little treat dish. If it was larger, like a cookie jar type situation, I may have picked it up. The dog itself seems a little creepy to me, but I think with a paint job, it could be toned down on the creepiness level. Here's just kind of a broad view. They almost do things by color and then, somewhat not. These I would have picked up, but they were $4.99 each. There were 2 of them, so I passed on those. I'll see if the price drops on those. This I actually did end up picking up, and we'll work on it later. It was $3.99, which I think is a decent price. And this little wash stand here I liked, but it was $9.99, so no. These I've had my eye on for probably a month now, and they're $20. They're just bookends. I love them, but not for $20. This I just thought was cute. I probably wouldn't pick it up. It's a decent price, but it's not quite my style. And I just wanted to show you guys this little stove. I love it so much. This is their copper wall. They usually have more on here, but they don't have anything really exciting this week, so I'm going to leave it. I did love this giant mason jar dispenser, but the spigot was plastic, so I left that. And I wanted to show you these because I've had my eye on these for forever. But they're $40 each, so again, pass. Okay, we just made it to the shop because I'm going to grab some other stuff that I have to work on here and take it home so I can have a couple days to hang out with Lucas and my husband and not have to go to the shop. So that's what we're going to do. We did not have a ton of luck. I got 2 things, at my favorite thrift store. So we might stop at one more on the way home. We'll see how bad traffic is because Portland traffic can be a bit much. But it's been not great. So I'm gonna grab a few items, grab my box of goods, and we'll see if we can't make it to one more stop. Oh, I do want to show you guys the shirt. You have to check it out. This is probably like the last week I can wear it because I don't want it to be ruined after the baby gets here. But look at, can you read it? It's so cute. My husband got it for me for Christmas and I adore it. It was just not the best time thrifting. I did find one more item since I talked to you guys last, which was all of like 2 seconds ago for you, which was this cute little recipe box. I actually found this. I've been doing some research on some shops, not thrift shops, but like little market-y type things. And this place was very expensive, which is what I was looking for. But I actually found this for $2.99 there, and I thought that was a really good price. So this will get zhuzhed up. It's pretty pumped about that. That's the only thing I found at that place because obviously I wasn't shopping there. I was just kind of looking around because I like looking at those types of stores. Now at the Deseret Industries one where I said they price things too high and it's terrible, it is true. But I did find 2 things there. Where's the other? Oh, okay. So I found this clock. This clock was $2, which was actually a great price. I would have paid this anywhere because it's a good, super ornate clock. We are going to paint this up just so that you can see all the details and everything. It does not work. It had so much battery acid that had gotten into all the stuff. I've taken it apart. I filmed it. I'll do probably like a little time lapse so that you can kind of see. I got it almost working, but it doesn't want to. So I just ordered a new clock mechanism, which you can do off of Amazon, or I think they have them at like Hobby Lobby and things like that. So it's kind of a bummer because a good deal on a clock is now less of a good deal because I have to also buy the clock mechanism. But I just thought this was so pretty. Like even the back is fancy that I think it's worth it. And it's hefty. So I think it's a good one. This I picked up, it's $4, which I think is a bit high for what it is. However, I love these types of things like the hurricane glass and just where you can carry the candles around. I've had a lot of power outages lately, so this stuff just really speaks to me. I'm like, lots of people could use that because I know I could have. Not that you wouldn't use flashlights, but you know, I like the old stuff. And this one comes with an already melted candle, which I love and is going to stay in here because I just think it looks great. This has already been painted. It was originally white. They did black. I'm just going to do some stuff over the top and clean up the glass and it will be good to go. So we'll get that fancied up. Then at my favorite thrift store that I love going to, I found this, which I think is cutesy, but not quite to my, we're gonna make it a little more old world Frenchy. This is gonna come off because I'm not a huge words on things type person. There's a few things that I like that I'll have, but I'm not a labeler. It's not stuff that speaks to me. So we're actually just gonna make this pretty. And I got some paper to do some decoupage on this. This was $3.99, which I thought was a little high, but maybe that's just me. But I thought this was so sweet. It has like a little inscription on the back. Someone obviously made it for someone. To Olga, the most beautiful woman to live on this earth. Love, Irma, which is so sweet. In 2018. Anyways, I thought that was darling. And I think this will be super, super cute once it's all zhuzhed up. Not that it's not cute now. I know this is to some people's liking as is, but it's just not to mine, and it needs to be to my aesthetic to go with all my things. Now, these other two things I also found at my favorite thrift store. I have the jar off. This one came with a jar. This one did not. The jar is getting washed right now. So this just needs oiled or waxed. The wood's a little bit dry, but this is an old-fashioned nut or candy dispenser. And I've always wanted one of these. I don't know why. There's like an antique shop up here that I've been into and they have one and it's priced so high. And so every time I go there, I'm like, if you lower the price, I would buy it. But it's been there for probably like 2 years and it still sits there. But then I found this one for $3.99, which I'm like sold. And I am probably gonna keep this one because like I said, have always wanted it. I'm just going to get it cleaned up and get it waxed and ready to go. And then I think Lucas will have a lot of fun doing this, and new baby when it gets old enough. And then this is along the same thing. I'll list this one. This one was $1.99, did not come with the jar. They have the lid on just a little bit wonky, so I'm gonna remove this ring, put on one of my rings, do some better screws, but it's the same thing. It also needs to be waxed. It's just a different style. So this one pops in here and then slides across there. So it dispenses out either side. And it's just super cute. I love these. I think they're darling and brilliant. So again, this is gonna come off, get cleaned up, and that will probably be all that happens to this. Then I scooped up this because it's the real copper with an actual like legit brass handle, which is awesome. It's two little chef teddy bears. This was $3.99. Love it. I think this is beautiful. Obviously nothing is happening to this because it's gorgeous as is, so it will just be on the website. Oh, if you guys want to shop anything on the website because we have quite a few new people now. It's elegant-upgrades.com. You can order on there. Some things will say to be painted if they're still in the works. It just kind of depends on where I'm at in photographing and listing. And then once they get finished, I just update the photos. And then these 3 things. So this I actually got for myself because they had several of them. It was $1 and it's, you know, just a little canning thing. I just like to show you guys what I get for myself sometimes too. And then these like old-fashioned medicine jars. They're like the brown amber color. I have picked up 2 of them in the past. They sell fairly quickly. This one still has like a messed up cork in it. I'm gonna try and remove that and then throw them in the dishwasher because they look a little bit gunky. But then we're gonna list them because they're beautiful. Nothing happens to these. I just love them as is. Oh, those were $1.49, sorry, and 79 cents, which are great prices for those. And then at Value Village or Savers, they're kind of like one and the same. I found this. Actually, I didn't find this. My mom found this one. It is so cute. It's like a pewter bunny tray. It was $5.99. I think it is great. This is obviously nothing is happening to this, so I'm just throwing this on the website. It is gorgeous as is, lovely, and perfect for the season. So I need to hurry up and get that one listed actually. This was same thing at Value Village. I strictly picked this up because I have enough frames right now, but I couldn't find anything. I was having the hardest time. So at this point, I've been to my favorite thrift store twice. I've been to, like, there was just, I don't know, it was not the best week. But this is a great frame. It was just a little high. It was $3.99. We're gonna do the wash over the top and let the gold come through because I'm just really loving that right now. So that's what that's gonna get. And these, my mom found these. They were $2.99 each. I don't love them, but I don't hate them. They're fine. I mean, they're cool looking. They're just not quite my aesthetic. I like the way that they look. They're not tapered candles. I think you could do tea lights or maybe those slightly larger candles in there. But I feel like you need larger because of the way that it's shaped. I feel like a tea light would be, but you know, you do whatever you want. Anyways, these have like the brushed copper, a little bit bronzy. Nothing's gonna happen to these. They're great as is. Just a little more like industrial for what I usually do. And I think that's it for all that stuff. Yeah, so that's it. So we're gonna zhuzh up some things and make them all pretty. Sorry, it's pregnant brain. All right, I'll see you guys painting.
So this was a frustrating round one with this clock, me getting it taken apart and trying to get it cleaned out so that it would work again. It did not, so I then ordered the mechanism off of Amazon. Normally you can get them apart and find out what piece isn't working and try and get it sorted out that way. The downside to this was the battery had leaked in it and it just went all throughout everything and I couldn't quite get everything cleaned up enough, so it had to go. So onto this little towel rack here. I'm just going to be cleaning it up first. This is going to take the longest because I know I'm going to add molds to it and everything, and that's all going to need time to dry. So I'm getting it cleaned up, getting the hot glue taken off, and then I will give it a quick scuff sand, and then we can get started doing the fun stuff. I'm just going to go in with a base of white, and that's because I'm going to be doing decoupage paper on this and then that little front section there. So I'm not worried about it being full coverage or anything like that. I just wanted to have a good base of white so that my decoupage paper can really stand out. And then this frame, I already know what I want to do with it, so I'm going to pull out the glass and the backing so that I don't get anything on them and set those aside. And then this is just going to get a super easy, quick coat of this taupe that I had mixed up. This is a thinner version of it because I like it to be thin when I want the gold to show through. It just gives it a much older look. And then as I was mixing up the taupe, it was a little too purpley for what I wanted on this frame, so I added a touch of the Goblin Gray, which is like a rich teal, and that just deepened it up a little bit. And then I can get that painted on, and this frame is like it's just the easiest flips ever. I love these gold with just looks like a wash of color over the top of it. It looks so cool. And then while the paint is still wet, I will go back in with a cloth and wipe off all the high points so that the gold is really popping through on those areas. So anywhere you want it to show through, you kind of just wipe back. That's why I like using a thinner paint for this. Now you can still do multiple coats, but you will want to wipe off between every coat. Otherwise it gets really hard to take it off. You can always wet distress, but it's much easier just to wipe it off and have kind of like the older, less crisp look if you do it while the paint is still a little bit wet. Now the clock is easy. I'm just taking out the face and giving it a good clean, and I'm just giving it a base coat of like this very soft, kind of like, it's not a French blue, it's kind of more like a beachy type blue, but we're going to do a wash over the top of this as well, so it looks very bright on here right now, and then we're going to richen it up a little bit. I was initially very excited about doing this because I've done the bed recently and the nightstands, and I just really love like these tones with gold. But then this clock just wanted to be older, so I tried going a little older with it. Now this is the Hurricane candle base. I have the glass in the dishwasher right now, so all I have to do is worry about working on the base, and since I'm already using that blue color, I'm going to use it on this. And I try and keep my colors mostly together, that way it's easy just to bust out several of them at once. And I work in stages like this because things need time to dry before I can move on to the next step of a single piece. So if you're working on multiple pieces like this, it just makes your life so much easier. That way you're not actually having sitting and waiting time, not being able to do anything. So by now the white paint on the little wooden towel rack is dry, and I can start kind of fitting this decoupage paper to it. Now I'm not fitting it perfectly, I'm doing a rough cut. I do want edges hanging off of this so that I can get them crisp and clean at the end, but it is easier to work with if it is closer to the size that I want. So I'm just cutting it down slightly larger than what I need and making sure that it fits in easily. That way when I start getting it wet, I'm not worried about it being difficult to work with and tearing and trying to move it around and things like that. It just makes it a little bit easier for me. So I do all my decoupage with poly, some kind of clear coat. I typically use satin matte or the clear gloss. Whatever I'm using for the piece is usually what I'm using. In this case, most of my smalls get sealed with wax, but so I just brought my little small bottle of poly with me, and that's what I'm applying it with. So I'm just putting a little down on the back, smoothing it out with a brush, and then I will take my paper and I attach it in a small section at the top, and then I will use the brush with a little more poly and work it down with the brush. The brush is very soft and gentle, so I have less of a chance of tearing the paper as it's going down. And I just use that to smooth out all the wrinkles. With this piece, I'm not terribly concerned about wrinkling because it's going to be this style. But even so, I got barely any wrinkles. And if you do get like 1 or 2 small wrinkles, just know that as your paper dries, a lot of times it shrinks up and pulls those out anyways. But there's tons of different ways to do decoupage and to do it wrinkle-free if that's something that you're interested in. Now, when I looked at the frame, I realized that 1 coat of this was going to be perfect. So I just went in with some antique gold gilding wax, and I'm just touching a few of the spots that didn't have the paint fully pulled back. And this is a slightly shinier metallic. So the frame itself was gold, but it wasn't that super high shine kind of gold. So the gilding wax is just adding just a tiny bit more sparkle to it. Now, I said that I wanted to age up this clock a little bit, and so I'm taking my watered down taupe. I'm actually spraying the clock with water also, and I'm just brushing on a little bit of the taupe. It's being used as a wash right now, and then I take a cloth and like dab back the excess. So I'm not taking all of it off, but there's so much texture in this clock that there's tons of places for it to sit down and kind of grunge it up a little bit. So I'll do that on all the sides, and then once I'm finished, when I stand up the clock, I'm going to go back in and dab it there too, because we all know washes are very watery, and as it stands up, you're going to want to make sure that you don't have any drips happening that you don't notice and come back to later and find big drips of wash coming down. That's rather annoying. And then since this is kind of wet, it's the perfect time to distress back that paint a little bit. So on a lot of these spots, I'm taking the cloth and I'm scrubbing just a little extra hard and pulling some paint off in a few areas just to give it more of an aged look. I really had no idea what I was going to do with this recipe box. I knew I wanted to do something to it, but I couldn't figure it out, so I just started with a base coat of white, which probably isn't the best idea as white is not one of my favorite colors. And it certainly doesn't inspire me to do anything, but that's what I did. So that's the route that I took, and this whole thing got 2 coats of white. Now on the first coat, I know that I'm going to add moldings, so I'm fine with having the first coat down, and I'll do the second coat over the top of the moldings. I did bring my glazing dusts home with me because I hadn't used them in a long time, and I just thought it would be fun to use them. So I've done this with using actual resin where you put the glazing dust or shimmer powder or whatever you're using inside, and then when you pull it out, it colors the resin. I have never tried it with clay before, and I didn't know if it would turn out. It wasn't going to matter too much if it didn't turn out because I could always just paint over it, but I just kind of wanted to see what would happen. So this is one of the IOD molds. I just threw in some really rich green and deep browns. I added a touch of shimmer on top just to give it some reflective properties, and that's it. It wasn't meant to be gilded or anything. And I just kind of wanted to see what would happen. I will say they came out a little bit splotchy, so I took my brush, just a little dry brush, and brushed it around to really smooth out the pigments and get them kind of all over the clay, and I didn't hate the way that it looked. Now, I also didn't love the way that it looked, but I think there could be a place for this. I think it would just kind of depend on what you're doing, and I made this work. I think it turned out okay, but it's definitely not the same as using resin. I mean, I knew it wouldn't be the same as using resin, but it's not even close. So anyways, I'm going to get these glued on here. You can see they're very patchy, but because I kind of like the kind of really old rustic style looks anyways, I'm going to work with this and I think it'll be okay. Now moving back to the little towel rack, the paper has fully dried on here, so now I'm just taking my sandpaper and running it along the edges to give me a clean line of the paper going around. This is super easy. If you wait till this fully dries, this is like the best way to get off excess decoupage paper. It is lovely and works every time. And now because there is that gap in the wood, I just took a flat, you can use a blade for this, whatever you have that's kind of skinny that will fit in there. I broke the paper down the center, and then I'm just going to take more of my poly and a small brush this time and lay the edges of those paper around the corner of the wood, if that makes any sense. So there's a teeny tiny bit. I went directly down the center with my cut and pressed both sides down with poly and a tiny brush. So that way it kind of did a little wrap job. And then I had this little trim mold here, so I made a few pieces of trim, and I'm just going to trim out the front section of the box on there, and then also the back panel with the flower on it. So I like angled corners. I don't like the squared off corners. So what I do here is I just lay the two strips down. I let them go over the top of each other, and then I'm taking the knife and cutting diagonally to meet the corners there. And then you just remove the extra pieces, and you have a perfect 90-degree angle with the two pieces there, and it is lovely. It works every time, and it's a super easy way to get that. Instead of trying to measure and get them cut, you just lay them over the top of each other and cut. It's amazing. So I did that for the, again, back panel section and also that front little box section. Now, since all the colors in my papers are muted, I'm going in with a coat of white, and it's not going to stay white. I just want this to be my base, and I want it to stay wet so that when I go in with my other colors that are in the papers, it softens them out and makes them a little more tonal. So I am going over the clay while it's still wet. This is not fully dry by any means. I usually will paint over clay while it's still wet. Not crazy right out of the mold, because then you can sometimes damage the imprint. But if you give it just a little bit to crust up, you can paint right over the top of it while it's still wet, and it works great. So I did end up getting a little bit of the white paint on top of the decoupage paper and a little bit on top of the wood. It doesn't matter because both of those have clear coat on them, and it just wipes right off with a little bit of damp cloth. I will get some colors on top of the decoupage paper. However, I don't want the white on top of it because I'm going to mimic the colors on there, and the white's just a little bit too bright. So that's why you can see me cleaning it up there. And then I'm going in with the colors that I picked up that were kind of reminiscent of the paper. And as they're blending in with the white, you can see them start kind of blending in with the paper as well. And so I'll just use a few colors. I had a little bit of brown out, a little bit of Sunday Sunset, which is kind of like a mauvey pink, and a little bit of the Goblin Gray, which is that rich teal color for the front of the box area because that had a lot of greens in it. And I'm just putting that on there, wiping back what I don't want on the papers, and then I'll actually do a bit of a wash and some like kind of tapping. You can see me kind of stamping it with the cloth there just to bring it onto the papers a little bit so it's not such a stark transition, and kind of it just helps blend the colors out a little bit better. And I just go all around until I kind of like the way that it looks, and it feels like it's cohesive between the front of the box and then the back panel. So as I said, I'm doing the 2 coats of white on this box, and I am going to go over the top of the moldings with this. However, I'm just going to kind of almost dry brush over the moldings. So it doesn't cover up all of the green and the brown, but just enough to make it not look so crazy from having the imperfect powders collect in the clay in different areas. Now back over to the clock. I'm just going in with some gilding wax, and this is again that antique gold. I use this throughout the video just because when I have a product out, it's just easier to continue using that. So I'm going around to all the high points and getting this on there. Now back to our candle base. It was just a bit too bright, so I went in again with the taupe, kind of like a wash, and then I used a cloth to dab it back to kind of give it more of a textured feel so that it wasn't just a wash on there. I wanted to have a bit of texture as well. And I use my spray bottle when I want to thin stuff out and kind of move stuff around, and you just kind of go back and forth with how you're liking how the texture or the finish is coming along. And then more of that gilding wax on the little box here because this is dry enough. So since I seal most of my smalls with wax, as I said before, you have to think about when you're doing gilding wax, what's going to happen. So you want to let the gilding wax dry as much as possible before you add clear wax, because clear wax can remove, I say clear wax, but any wax can remove your gilding wax. So that's just something to think about. If you want it on stronger, you can do the gilding wax last. And then finally our little clock piece came in from Amazon, and I was like, this is great. I'm going to be able to put this on here and get it going again. And this did not fit. The size of it fit, but the little piece that sticks out was too far out to fit, and I found this was the smallest one I could find. But the little threads that came up stuck out way too far, and I couldn't get the cover back on the clock face. So I was very bummed out. However, I went back on Amazon, and you know what? I just looked up a 3-inch clock face, found one of those for $1 less than I found the mechanism, and so then I had to wait another day for that to come in. So clock is still waiting. On our little card box here, we're going to give it a distress around all the edges. At this point, I still didn't know how it was going to go. This is too stark for me. When I looked at it, I was just like, I just can't. So it was waiting until I was figuring out what I wanted to do. And then this is just going to be a wax sealing moment where I'm taking my clear wax. I had my Butcher Block Restore and Conditioner. That is a wax. It's from Chalk Mountain. It's amazing. It seals up hard just like a regular wax would, but it's also food safe. So I'm doing that because I'm also going to be doing the little candy guys over there, and I want to make sure that, you know, food can touch it. So like I said, it's just easier to have one product out, so I use that product to seal over all of these. And because I didn't bring any dark wax with me, this is perfect because I can use my dark brown glazing dust, which is also what this is for, to add age and distress and things like that. So I just have a little brush, and you want to do this over the wax while it's still wet. It cannot be cured or else it won't stick on the way that you want it to. The wax was just a little bit too wet here, so I wiped back a little bit more, but it still sits in the crevices. So you can see me using the brush. I'm dipping it in the powder, and I can go around all of like the corners and everything, anywhere that I want some more age, and I can just get it on. You can swirl it out with the brush, and then I will also use the cloth to kind of buff it out and take some of it back off. And you just go back and forth to how you like it. Like if you want it really deep and rich, you can do that. If you want it more subtle, you can put it on and then try and wipe back as much as you can with the cloth. I'll add a little bit more to the areas where I think they would have been touched more frequently. Just anything like that is kind of what's going on in my head. So that's where I'm at with this stuff. And again, I just go back and forth to whatever I like. If I took too much off, I can add some more on. And then this will be wet and kind of mobile on your piece until the wax has cured. And this is the same dark brown that I'm going to be doing to the clock. Not all over the place, just in a few areas, and same thing for the little candle holder as well. The frame I think is perfect, so all I'm doing is just wiping back the excess wax on this, and this guy will be good to go. Now the candy / nut dispensers, they just need to be waxed up so that the mechanisms run smoothly and we can rehydrate this wood. It was just a bit dry. And I'm getting that on there. You can see me pulling out the little inner part that will help it slide in and out. And then the same one with this piece, except for I have to remove the ring on this one. The screws were too big for it. It had initially been done with like little staples, but the staples had broke through the ring. So somebody had added screws that were far too big for it. So I'm just completely getting rid of this, and I'm going to put on a fresh ring after we get it all cleaned and waxed up. I obviously already had a mason jar in my stash, so it was just easy to go grab one of those. And on the other one, they use little pin nails, so that's what I'm going to use to attach this one. I just had to adjust a little so that it wasn't going to any of those large screw holes, and got those in there. It was a bit of a pain, but it all worked out. Now I'm just going in and sealing up this recipe box because I feel like I want to use the glazing dust on this to kind of zhuzh it up a bit. So getting the wax on so that I can then use the glazing dust to kind of make some of this stuff pop out. If you're wondering why I didn't do anything to the lid, it's because I don't want it to reach up and touch any of the top parts. Again, I'm not somebody who likes words on things. I more like decorations. So that's why I didn't write anything on it or just put any like the word recipe on there. I don't like any of that, so this is the route we're taking. First I'm going in with the brown and kind of getting that on there, aging it up, and it's still not quite right. So then I'm wiping it back to where I like it, and I'm taking this lavender color, and it looks so pretty. Like, it is the prettiest lavender color, and it goes on and swirls out and blends so nicely in the wax, and just mixing with the brown like richens it up. I love how this turned out. I was so on the fence about it the whole time. Everything that I was doing to it was just like, not making me happy. And then I put on the lavender glazing dust and I was like, yes, this is where it's at. It's giving me the color that I need, so it's not the stark white. It's mixing with the brown, so it's not this crazy purpley color, and I just love it. And I may or may not have gone in with more gilding wax and just touched just a little bit of the molds.
Oh hi, Taryn here, back with some finished pieces. This was a really fun little makeover series. I really enjoyed it. I've got a couple pieces that I didn't have to make over. This board back here I'm throwing in just so that you can see it. I did it off camera just because it's something that I do when I'm bored, like the wood burning, practicing and everything. This guy was so much fun. So I think I want to do more things like that. Mind you, they take more time and they're not something that I think can turn a huge profit, but it's fun to be able to work with things and get a bunch of kind of ideas out. And I really enjoy doing things like that because then they give you inspiration for other things and help you to kind of keep going and moving. So anyways, we've got this amazing bunny tray, which of course I've already shown you. Nothing had to happen to that. This clock was an ordeal. Man, you guys saw it but it works now, has a lovely brand new face. It looks gorgeous. I almost wish I would have done it in the taupe color. I really like this color. I think it's beautiful, but for whatever reason, I'm feeling like the taupey gold situation right now, and I feel like it's a good one. This again was another one of those like playing around with stuff, and I really like how this one turned out. And it's been a long time since I've used the dusting powders, so that was fun to get back into those and just kind of mess around with them and play there. This guy, still super cute. I mean, easy peasy, nothing crazy, but I just really like those hurricane things. Frame turned out beautifully. This is what I mean. It's like this taupey color with the gold, and I really think I would have liked this with it. But again, I'm not keeping it, so it's fine. It can be that, which is beautiful. I like it. It's just, you know. And then this here, there will be pictures of everything right after this. I just wanted to go through and kind of do a quick little talking head with you, but look at how cute this is. We have like no candy in our house. Lucas has some Valentine's Day candy left over. So he had like a mini packet of M&Ms and I put them in here to test it out. And it's so cute. So I think this is the one that we'll keep. And then this one here, I did a little video of it working too. I put the candies in there. It does like an individual. So that one will give you, it threw out 3 M&Ms that time. This one does about 1 M&M every time. Mind you, that's M&Ms. You could put nuts or whatever you like in there. That will fit in that hole, but super cute. It slides really well now. I got a new jar to it. New, it's an old jar, but you know. I got a new ring on here, which is again an old ring, but new to this piece. So that way it still kind of fits in with it. But yeah, good stuff. And everything is available on the website as per usual, elegant-upgrades.com. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are incredible. I can't thank you enough for all of your support that you give when you share the videos, when you chat with me in the comments. I think it is lovely. I'm so grateful to you all so much. I can't even tell you. So hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.